Initially, the workers had been protesting for several months, and it was just a small group of workers gathering either in front of the cantonal government building, or cantonal court. And then on the 5th of February, actually there was a Facebook group set up maybe a week before, and calling to citizens of Tuzla to join the workers. And then basically on Wednesday, the 5th of February, just a mass of people appeared in the streets. Since there were clashes between the protesters and police in the afternoon of the first day, then the second day, even more people appeared. On Thursday, I mean, the amount of people in the streets was just, for Tuzla, it is not something that my generation, and I don't think that even my parents' generation remembers. It was just this massive amount of people in the street. And then on Friday, February the 7th, at some point, there was a group of policemen just protecting the entrance to the building. And then people would start throwing stones as usual, and then at some point the policemen just left, which then allowed to some of the protesters to enter the building and then basically set it on fire. The protesters in Tuzla set the cantonal government building on fire, and then basically they moved to the municipal government, and they also burned a part of it down. It happened in the same way in Sarajevo and Mostar and Zenica. Basically these locations, these buildings were burnt.
The protests in Sarajevo came a few days after protests in Tuzla and after the plenum in Tuzla. So we basically had more or less same situation in the streets. So the government buildings were set on fire. Our presidency building also was set on fire, and it was very, very brutal, I can say. People were extremely angry.
Let's say that flame of protest spread all around the country. So it spread to Sarajevo and some other towns, and there were some group of people gathered here who wanted to spread protests also in Mostar. They saw protests in Tuzla, Sarajevo, Bihać and some other towns of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they wanted to set the fire of protests here. When I said set fire, I don't mean literally, of course, even though fire happened later. So you had this column, this river, these thousands of people marching through town, and they were going from one city or canton or federal or state institution to another. So that day was the day when we can say that so-called revolution started.
These acts of burning of the building actually created an opportunity for the creation of something new.
I think what's different about these protests is, one, they were violent, and two, they were about something that affects us all. And it wasn't just about one specific group, it was all of us uniting in the pain to support one another in this, literally saying, look, all our hunger is the same.
After the Dayton Peace Agreement, this country was divided into two entities, one of them being Republika Srpska, where majority of the population are Serbs, and the other part is a Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which also means Federation of Bošnjaka i Hrvata, Bosniaks and Croats. And after that, the federation has gone through some restructuring, so we now in the federation have 10 cantons, plus so we have two entities, one of the entities has 10 cantons, and we have District Brčko, which is a very, let's say, something like a third entity. It's not an entity, but it has everything that Federation Republika Srpska has. So it's a very, very specific situation. So we've been like ethnicized, which is a very, very important thing. And for the first time with the plenums, with the protests and everything, we have a class dimension. And for the first time, we are no longer ethnos in the sense that our ethnicity is important, but we are a political nation, political people, and we all share the same, let's say, destiny in the country in the sense that we have some class belonging that's more important than our ethnicity. Bosnia and Herzegovina had a really good industry before the war. We were one of the poorest Yugoslav republics, but nonetheless we were industrialized.
To što se sad dešava u fabrici, znači plod je kriminalne privatizacije koja je počela znači kasnih 90-ih. Počele su znači kasniti plate, proizvodnja se gasila i znači to je početak zla ovoga.
Now we are back not to square one, but our industries and our companies have been sold to private owners, which basically do nothing except fire people. Our unemployment rate in Bosnia and Herzegovina is more than 46%, and it's been like that for the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years. We have more than 500,000 unemployed people, and we're not that big of a country. Our youth unemployment is above 60%.
I speak something like 5 languages, but I'm without the workplace. And therefore I'm here to protest with all those people that are workless since 20 years. If you are not a member of political parties, you have no chance to work, actually.
We are not just massively underemployed population, we are also massively in debt.
These kind of structural injustices that were built into not just the 8th peace agreement, but also Washington peace agreement that was then incorporated, and the creation of the federation, and then the creation of this unwieldy bureaucracy meant that this system could not be sustained for a long time unless you were taking huge loans in order to keep this bureaucracy going.
Just seeing all the media spinning the situation and all the politicians reacting, especially the initial days, reacting to the situation and whatever, it was very, very clear not only how much the political elite has become separated from everyday reality, but also how people are aware of that fact.
What I think about politicians, that they live in a fairy tale where everything is perfect, so they can't really know the needs of the people, and they can hear people, what people need and what they don't have. So yes, I think the people in common of all ethnicities have the same problems and have the same needs. We want politicians to stop dividing us, to stop with the nationalistic rhetorics, to allow people to connect, to interfere, and to collaborate together with their ideas.
Sa pojedinačnim izglasavanjem. Zahtjeva ima 10. Prvi zahtjev je ostavka vlade Federacije Bosne i Hercegovine.
Ko je za? Ko je protiv? Hvala.
Zahtjev broj 2.
First plenum was on February 7th. It was this feeling of this, kind of crucial. Of course, you are not completely aware that this is kind of the crucial moment, but there was this urgent sense of doing something now.
Plenums started in one place, and then they just suddenly spread literally within a day in every city, in Tuzla, in Zenica, in Sarajevo, in Mostar, and then gradually smaller towns also took over. The purpose of plenums is really to bring people together. So far, all these different groups, social groups that have been suffering for so long, have tried to make a difference on their own. So we've got veterans, we've got lone parents, we've got people with disabilities, all kinds of social groups, pensioners. They've all tried to make a difference, to make their lives better individually. It didn't work. So now the purpose of plenum is to unite them all.
Dobro, znači od onih događaja od 7. februara, znači tu noć navečer kad se, kažem, formirao plenum, ja sam pozvana Jer od juna mjeseca moji radnici su znači svake srijede izlazili na mirne proteste, ali nas je bilo malo, nismo mogli neke rezultate postići. Sve dok nisu nam se pridružili i radnici drugih firmi, dok nisu se studenti, đaci, nezaposleni, samo onaj narod koji je bio. Znači, mi sa svojim mirnim protestima nismo mogli ništa učiniti. Ja sam od početka, znači, u tom plenumu i borim se, znači, za prave radnika. Moji radnici, znači, radnici DITA-e, još uvijek meni daju podršku i gledaju u mene.
This is the first time that we've had any opportunity after the war that people were actually allowed to come to say out loud what they wanted, what they thought, what they felt.
How we can see plenum is in this way. Plenum is a logical endpoint of Dayton peace agreement. So it is the Dayton peace agreement and all the structures envisaged in it taken to their contradiction. What's given the credibility and the legitimacy to the plenum is also the threat of protest. What we've managed to do is to open up these sites of public spaces that were repossessed through privatization. So privatization also means privatization of public life.
Now the most important thing is basically to work on actually persisting in the way to show that it is a matter of class struggle.
We hope that they will listen. We hope that 7th was the big wake-up call for them, and that they've realized this country doesn't belong to them, it belongs to the people.
What will happen, I'm not sure, but I must say I am for the first time after many years really positive that something good is going to come out of this.
So it is something that's happening globally, and something that's going to spread to even more countries.
No matter what happens with the plenums, with the protests, wherever they end, if they go into some other form, it's the first time that we started talking about social justice, about the demands that are really, really important to people and important to most marginalized members of our society. So I think that we started a fight that will last longer than us.